There we go. Look at that. Look, 5 reasons why we need hate speech. All right. I skipped around this video very, very lightly. I haven't full-on watched it. It was released not super recently, but 80,000 views. This is actually, I think, valuable because I don't think that I've ever really talked about hate speech on this channel. Let's do it. Absolutely, let's do it. I'm excited. Are you excited?
Conventional wisdom tells us hate has no value. Hate is dangerous. Hate is harmful. And if we are to achieve social justice, we must put a stop to hate speech. Silence it by any means necessary.
Is that conventional wisdom? Wait, is that conventional wisdom? I've been outside at least a couple of times in my life. I'm pretty sure the predominant view on hate speech is not all view in order to promote social justice, all hate speech must be silenced at any cost. There's no other way. I'm pretty sure that's not actually conventional wisdom. I think that might actually be the opinion of a really small group of people, which is an indication of which way this video is going to lean, huh? So, just so you guys know, I'm actually not really in favor of hate speech laws. I don't really like giving the government the ability to decide what kinds of speech are extra bad. Right now, the President of the United States of America is trying to get Antifa, a group that has led to no deaths, that protests against the comparatively far more violent white nationalists, special status as a terrorist group. In an environment like this, I don't really trust the government to not deem hate speech as speech which aligns with my political values. Like, we're literally talking right now about making Antifa, no deaths, a terrorist group, whereas white nationalist groups like Sons of Odin or the Proud Boys, which have been associated with a great many more deaths and quite a bit more damage, are not getting that treatment. So who's to say then that under some hate speech laws, it is made illegal to promote, say, leftism because you're invoking the horror. They'd probably wrap it in anti-Semitism, actually. Oh, you're a leftist? Like Stalin, who hated the Jews? They like that shit, you know? But then leave off, you know, the same ascriptions to white nationalism. I'm actually very skeptical of hate speech as a concept. Wait, the Proud Boys are associated with deaths? I don't know if there have been any Proud Boy rallies that have led to death, but like as part of a broader trend of white supremacy, yeah, they've aligned themselves pretty clearly with that.
But what if the fight to stop hate speech is more harmful than the speech itself?
Amazing. I'm excited. I get to take the radical centrist perspective on this, where this video is going to be stupid as fuck, but also I'm not in favor of hate speech. Damn, we got the Antifa violence? Yeah. Absolutely. No, it doesn't. Okay, let's do it.
Listening to Nazis or white supremacists speak isn't my idea of a good time. Swastikas, cross burnings, marching with tiki torches. I'm not a fan of the whole hate flicks and chill lifestyle.
Oh boy. All right.
So let's just make it illegal. Problem solved, right?
Okay.
Hate mongers have their messages amplified by every attempt to censor them, shut them down, disrupt them. Most people are shocked to learn that in Germany, during the period when the Nazis rose to power, there were very strict anti-hate speech laws.
Oh, no. Oh, I'm gonna have to argue against the ACLU on this one, aren't I? Oh, God. Oh, jeez. Oh, God. Oh, shit. So if anyone is interested in learning the ways in which it is possible for state suppression, like suppression of speech, to inhibit a political movement, take a look at 50 years of American history following the beginning of the Cold War and how far leftism was materially advanced in this country. Because during that 50-year period, if you were in any way, shape, or form an out and about leftist, you could expect a bevel of suppression coming from both the state, the corporations that you would work under, and in many cases, the people you lived with. That was a difficult time to be a leftist in this country, and it worked. The ACLU are libs, for better or for worse. The ACLU is radically pro-freedom of speech, which is in many cases a good thing. I like freedom of speech. But the idea that suppressing a type of speech makes it stronger is fucking ludicrous. It's fucking laughable. Nobody is suppressing, by the way, white nationalist speech. President Trump and his cabinet have been promoting this kind of speech since they came into office. Having the tacit support of the President of the United States of America is the farthest you could possibly get from state suppression of that speech. So if the argument that's to be made here, and I've heard this argument before from a number of people, is that, oh, well, actually, the reason why white nationalism is so prominent these days is because we never argued against it. We just shamed those people and they went underground. That's not even remotely true. People have been open, out and about white nationalists in America for centuries. That hasn't changed at all. They've had the support of politicians, of police commissioners, of mayors, of lobbying groups, and of corporations since, well, long before any of us were born. Nobody has meaningfully suppressed white nationalist speech at all.
Many leading Nazis actually served time in prison, and guess what? They loved it. It became a propaganda platform for them. They received attention and sympathy that they otherwise never would have.
So the argument here that if Hitler wasn't in prison, then they never would have received that same kind of attention is also fucking ludicrous. What the fuck? The fucking brown shirts running around the streets of Germany, the fervent white nationalism and anti-Semitism, the suppression of the Weimar Republic, all of these things. Well, if Hitler wasn't jailed, who really knows how it could have turned out? No. Fascists love the little one of our members have been jailed. Oh, one of us got kicked off social media, because it gives them an opportunity to play bitch baby and pretend that they're being suppressed. But if you actually look at it, there's a reason why they hate these things. You would think, by the way, if white nationalists were so in favor of these little tidbits of suppression that they could use to bolster their fan base, they wouldn't rally so hard against things like Twitter TOS or getting kicked off YouTube. But these people hate that shit. It turns out getting knocked off of the mainstream public discourse actually does hurt your ability to spread your message.
And that's why hate mongers to this.
Also, yeah, Hitler wasn't in prison for hate speech. It was for literally attempting a coup. So it's not as though the imprisonment of Hitler had anything to do with hate speech.
Today, follow that same strategy.
You will not replace us!
Whether it's a proud white nationalist like Richard Spencer, or
hey, guys, funny that, Richard, and Milo
a proud
Yiannopoulos.
campus clown like Milo Yiannopoulos, the definition of hate speech may shift, but the pattern is always the same.
Except Richard Spencer, over the past couple of years, has been getting just a few dozen people showing up at his speeches and rallies, and he's even said that because of counter-protesters, it's just not fun to advocate for white nationalism anymore. Richard Spencer's relevance has fucking plummeted over the past couple of years because of how hard he's been harassed by counter-protesters. Milo Yiannopoulos has gone from one of the most subversive, edgy, free thinkers in conservative discourse to being a fucking nobody in millions in debt because he kept getting shut out of campuses and the right dropped him after he turned out to be pro-pedophilia. These things work.
Shutting people down doesn't silence them.
Also, calling Milo Yiannopoulos a campus clown kind of plays down the whole he's a Nazi thing. And this guy's going to say right now, shutting people down doesn't silence them, except when it literally does in the case of the two people you just listed, dumb fuck.
It makes them louder and stronger.
It does not.
Hello, darling.
please, sir. Sir, please.
What am I watching right now?
I have an idea how we can solve this. Maybe I'll just come here.
I think deplatforming can serve.
What is that meant to represent? He was in a crowd full of his supporters. They came here to see him. Of course they're going to cheer when he does something to deal with counter-protesters. What the fuck is that supposed to mean? See how attempting to silence his free speech by blowing the whistle look at the crowd that came here specifically for him. They loved it when he got closer to them.
Certainly make careers, because then they become martyrs in a sense. They're able to say,
the author of Uncensored. Yes, that political science.
To defend ourselves. And so this, shutting down Milo Yiannopoulos and doing whatever is necessary to do that, is our right to self-defense.
Yep.
When he was shot.
Now the victim fights for his life as the anger on Inauguration Day rages on.
Milo used provocation to skyrocket himself to fame. And in response to his hurtful words, protesters turned to violence.
In response to his hurtful words, like him being out and about Nazi, a white nationalist, and openly doxing people who counter-protest, students at the university that he would speak at.
As a coping mechanism. Unfortunately,
as a coping mechanism? This video is fucking openly right-leaning, Jesus Christ. So again, for one, Milo Yiannopoulos is now irrelevant because he was deplatformed. So the premise of this video is factually incorrect. For two, as a coping, oh yeah, okay. See, just base epic red-pilled Milo coming around to spread truth to all the college campuses with his irreverent tour de force show stage play of being, an antagonizer and being openly silly, a clown of sorts. And the people who were mad at all of his truth-telling, well, they just couldn't cope, so they got triggered and started throwing firebombs at the campus.
That's become the new norm for far too many people. Are we sure this is the path we want to go down? Because I'd rather you tell me why I'm wrong than punch me why I'm wrong.
You can do both, buddy.
Somebody
He was trying to out trans people and undocumented people.
said that every great truth began as...
By the way, this video stands as a phenomenal example of how fascists co-opt liberal adulation of free speech in an effort to dismantle that very same free speech. So Milo doxing trans people and undocumented immigrants Yiannopoulos is not in favor of freedom of speech. He is not in favor of that. That is not one of his policy proposals. However, fascists, like the person who runs this channel, will use liberals' adulation of free speech to argue against the censorship of people like Milo. Because it works. Hey, guys, buddy, hey, want a little lesson? Quick little lesson right here? Hey, when your enemies show you what upsets them, listen to them. So you know how fascists are constantly like, deplatforming us and censoring us doesn't even work. Ha ha ha. Everyone can see you're just scared to debate our ideas. They say as they desperately fight against being censored and deplatformed by like unironically arguing for the state to co-opt like Google and Twitter and shit so that it counts as freedom of speech and they can't be deplatformed. When they tell you what they're afraid of, listen to them, okay?
A blasphemy.
That includes our country's proudest achievements in social justice. The abolition of slavery, women's suffrage, the civil rights movement. All were extremely unpopular, even hated in their day.
Well, good thing hate speech, when people use it in common parlance, doesn't mean unpopular speech or speech that is hated. That's not really how people use that terminology. Oh, you think calling for the death of all Jews is hate speech? Well, people hated Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. Ever thought about that?
Once we give government power to pick and choose which ideas are sufficiently hated to be suppressed, then no idea is safe.
I do agree with that. It should be noted that I do agree with this principle. I'm not in favor of implementing hate speech laws because I don't trust the government to not use it against non-hateful but nonetheless subversive ideas like leftism or whatever, you know, like democratic socialism. I am in favor of what she's saying in this regard. The problem I have is the fact that that little tidbit of info, that little ideological nugget, is being used as a core around which this person is weaving a narrative of fascist propaganda.
We might not know the difference between fake news and real news, but surely we can differentiate between actual hate speech, like Hitler-level hate speech, and speech that gets labeled hate speech just because someone doesn't want to hear it. I mean, they're doing it in Europe.
Last year, the head of an LGBT rights organization was convicted of a crime for using the word homophobe.
That's interesting. I'm actually going to look this up really quickly. Wait, at Vosh, you're in favor of hate speech laws? You just can't think of how they would not lead to a slippery slope which leads to silencing your comrades? Please be honest, you're hysterical. Amir Kazmir, I literally just said I'm not in favor of hate speech laws for that exact reason. Are you okay? Here, I'll just ban you. That's a level of stupidity, I think, that is undeserving of my community. You okay, my dude? Jesus Christ. Must have misheard or something? No, that person's a Nazi. Amir Kazmir or whatever. Here, really quickly. So, French hate crime ruling. All right. Last week, this is from 2016. Last week, a French court ruled that calling someone a homophobe is akin to hateful slur. Horror had euros for using the term. 2013 demonstration against the pro-life group Légion Foundation, La Manif pour Tuer, which translates into "Des protest for everyone." Hey, you know what sucks? You know how in media, like in cartoons and stuff, French people are really sexy and cool, but in reality they're all disgusting and have horrible accents and are the worst? That sucks. French speech grapples violence. How do we talk about it? Mais le pain. National French, Islamophobia in France. Comparison between Muslims and France is a disparate group of sexual ideology. Added to its definition, discrimination 2014, anti and sexist free speech group violating statute. Yeah, this sounds pretty dumb. Good thing I'm not in favor of this. All right, just verifying. Yay.
Because homophobe was considered hate speech under French law. In that same vein, any advocacy of Palestinian rights has been attacked and prosecuted as anti-Semitism.
Yeah, this seems pretty fucking dumb and precisely why I would not want hate speech laws in this country.
I find the whole idea of hate speech to be incredibly bizarre, as though there's some objective metric of what speech and ideas are hateful and what speech and ideas aren't. In France, for example, French courts have upheld the prosecution of pro-Palestinian activists on the grounds that singling out Israel for boycotting is racist and bigoted in violation of the law. So
I feel that Vosh just hates Europeans in general. We have the Brits, the French, who's next to be cancelled in Europe. To be fair, every leftist hates the Brits for their global imperialism, and every reasonable person hates the French. I'm fine with German.
So once you start empowering governments to decide what is sufficiently hateful,
yeah, I'm good with
the ways
Dutch.
in which it's going to be used is inevitably going to expand beyond what you think and ultimately will be used against ideas that you like.
The U.S. Supreme Court had...
What is to be done about hate speech without state action? That's an excellent question, comrade. Well, honestly, I think that some problems just can't be addressed through state violence. For example, things like racism or sexism. These are cultural problems that need to be diffused culturally. It's a liberal prescription that problems in society should be addressed through legislation and voting and what have you. But it is a radical prescription that we should, in addition to trying to change society from the top down, also work to better ourselves culturally. Then how do we solve them? Culturally. You fight day in and day out against racism and sexism and Islamophobia and what have you in every space that you can find. The state is not going to be able to fix this. The state can't make people not racist. And as long as the state is incapable of doing that, people will be able to be racist in the cracks of the law. And they've been doing so for centuries. Think of how racist right now America is, in spite of the fact that in legal code, we have essentially no explicitly racist laws, nothing that actively promotes discrimination between black and white people. In spite of that, this country remains racist as fuck, and that's because the state isn't capable of fixing that problem. We need to. Take your statement on the Dutch back. Oh, are the Dutch canceled? K-Dash Prime, fuck, I so badly wanted to disagree and post a long rewind chat. Fucking Vosh and reasonable takes. Yeah, the state can change a society's culture, though. It can a little bit, but not by much. Not really, no. Generally, culture is what dictates legal change, not the other way around. The Dutch tried to shut down e-hentai. Okay, that's unforgivable. The hate speech lawsuit in France is a lie? Is that true? Dare Dano. So everything that was just said is incorrect about Palestinian supporters being prosecuted for Islamophobia and such? Oh, I'm glad you like the shirt, comrade. I'll read donations soon.
Has consistently upheld First Amendment protections for hate speech. After all, one person's hate speech is another person's heartfelt truth or dispassionate analysis. But times are changing, and we're starting to follow the example of Europe. And it happens to be on that exact same issue. Pro-Palestinian activism.
Are we?
We see it on the federal and state levels.
Wait, whoa. Hold on.
Pro-Palestinian activism.
City University of New York cancels pro-Palestinian book event. That is in no way, shape, or form an indication of us leaning towards hate speech laws. What the fuck are you talking about?
We see it on the federal and state levels.
Critics denounce South Carolina's new anti-Semitism law. Recently passed South Carolina law targets criticism of Israel in schools by brandishing it anti-Semitic. Okay, so criticism in schools. So this has something to do, this is more to do with curriculum. We have tons of laws in curriculum. None of these indicate that there's going to be a law passed on hate speech. This is
and on college campuses,
chicken little fucking sky is falling shit.
Consider Fordham University.
Basically, students wanted to start a pro-Palestinian advocacy group. And this is controversial in some quarters. And Fordham just threw every possible obstacle at these kids. And kids who wanted to run pro-Israeli groups did not face the same obstacles.
The Foundation for Individual Rights in Education ranked Fordham as one of the worst colleges when it comes to free speech. It's gotten so bad that some students are even suing the university.
These are real problems, but this guy's prescription that we're now headed in the direction of Europe, which would be like a state, like a federal level ban on hate speech in spite of like a century of Supreme Court challenges to that idea, that's pretty fucking ludicrous to me. Any like invocation of hate speech laws on a federal level would be a massive deal.
So I thought I'd restore balance to the universe and invite members of Students for Justice in Palestine to be in our video. I wanted to hear their first-hand accounts of censorship. They said yes. But then a funny thing happened on the way to the fort.
Oh, no.
Why did they cancel? Here's what happened. After further consideration and review of Lou Perez's recent work and appearances, we've decided to decline your invitation to interview for this project. Unlike Fordham, we wanted to give them a platform to speak, to lay out their grievances with Fordham University. We see the same suppression of speech and lack of humanity in Fordham's administration that we see in...
Wait, what's that paragraph they just skipped up there? Given our experiences navigating censorship and suppressed speech at Fordham, we have come to learn to identify when a conversation is held with ill intentions. We, the internet, that's this YouTube channel, has given a platform to fascist views, and this alone is antithetical to your stated interest in engaging us in a conversation about free speech. Ooh! Oh, how embarrassing. So they didn't cancel you because they were worried about the university like censoring the conversation. They canceled you because you're a fascist and they did not want to talk with you. Damn. Amazing. A conversation on free speech held in good faith would require Lou Perez to acknowledge and explain his previous work uplifting the voices of people who hold bigoted views. We see the same suppression of speech and lack of humanity in Fordham's administration that we see in We the Internet's videos, and for that reason we don't believe an interview would be any fruitful to us. So they're accusing this YouTube channel of being just as bad as Fordham, and that they're both propagating a conservative anti-free speech message. Damn! Hey, by the way, we stand the fucking student organization that declined this interview. Hey, if only the ACLU bitch had thought the same thing. Maybe talking about why hate speech laws are a bad thing in an interview with a fascist for their YouTube channel would be a bad idea, because I would be propagating the adulating free speech for people who are trying to get it removed for everyone but themselves. Nah, I like attention. But these students had the gall to say no, and I respect that.
WTI videos. Are you getting the irony here? You lost us when WTI gave a platform to speakers who argued in favor of the pseudosciences or, quote, race science used for eugenic violence. That never happened. Number one, I don't lift up the voices.
What the fuck are you doing? Yeah. Oh, it sounded like you rattled the door. It's bagel time, friends. Is there like some rumbling going on outside? I swear I heard something. Like for the past minute or two.
I've been listening to you and making eggs. That'd be Max. Are you rumbling?
Love you, thank you. It's bagel time, comrades. All right. So I don't actually know. I have literally never engaged with this person's content before, this We the Internet guy. But this one video that I've seen of him has seen him propping up like fascist propaganda and very, very evidently downplaying Richard Spencer and Milo Yiannopoulos' rhetoric while indicating that their deplatforming has been ineffective, while it actually has been incredibly effective. So this guy, from all the evidence available to me, is a fascist. It would not surprise me in the slightest if he had propped up some race science used for eugenic violence. That would not be at all surprising to me.
Eugenic violence. That never happened. Number one, I don't lift up the voices of bigots. I satirize them. And two, race science? Do these students not know how commas work? What harm would talking to me possibly have done? Well, we were pretty upset to find out Lou Perez is not a eugenicist.
So this is a nice meme right here. I like how his argument that he didn't prop up any race science was that there was a comma between race and science in his interview. And additionally, I like how he is simultaneously holding the two incompatible views that A, he didn't have any race science propped on his show at all. It was just race and science. But B, he didn't promote that view. He satirized it. So which was it, buddy? Did you never have it on at all, or did you have it on and you satirized it? Or, more likely, did what you do is give a platform to race scientists so they could express their bullshit, and you lightly rib them throughout that point, giving you the veneer of respectability by sort of distancing yourself very slightly from the people who come on and promote their views. It's the same thing Dave Rubin does, except Dave Rubin doesn't even bother to distance himself from the things that the people he brings on say. He just sort of agrees with them and talks about the regressive left. This will be a fun one.
There are students who simply don't like what the speaker has to say, and they have found that there are solicitous authorities who react to rhetoric of trauma. And so if you employ that, if you use it, they think they'll get what they want.
Christina Summers has repeatedly delegitimized the suffering of women.
I was at Lewis and Clark College last year, the law school, where you're supposed to learn to argue and listen to both sides.
Christina Hoff Sommers. Remember when I did the video of hers, the factual feminist, where she's like a far-right conservative who calls herself the factual feminist because she disagrees with everything about feminism? Nice, good.
And a group of students, rather large group, inside and outside the auditorium, would not allow me to speak.
It's not like she's a myth. We've heard her speak before. For 5 minutes.
What was interesting is the majority of kids in the audience, they were very angry at the protesters. They didn't necessarily agree with me, but they were interested to hear what I had to say and to perhaps challenge it.
I just can't think of a worse way of teaching kids how to interact with the world than telling them they're going to be traumatized by her presence on their college campus. Maybe there's a small sample of kids who really have mental health problems. The response to that should be to get kids the help they need, not to encourage them to feel traumatized by opposing views.
I went to Oberlin College, and I was shocked. They had a safe room where people could flee if I said something distressing in my talk. Actually, 30 women and a therapy dog fled to a safe space. I triggered a dog.
So, for one, Talcat, no, she wouldn't even be a second wave feminist. She's actively against everything about like second and third wave feminism. I wouldn't be surprised if Christina Hoff Sommers privately believes women shouldn't even be allowed to vote. And secondly, what the fuck is this argument that's happening right now? So the argument that's been framed here is that hate speech cannot hurt you, and then they're going to point to one example of people saying that it might be triggering to listen to a rape apologist talk, and then the answer that the smarmy internet man is going to present us with is, actually, people who are triggered shouldn't do discourse anyway, because they can't handle it, and furthermore, as you can see by all the non-triggered people, hate speech doesn't hurt anyone. Well, the problem with that, actually, is that when people say hate speech hurts people, they don't actually mean that hearing the words, so the actual sonic vibrations in the air entering your ear, they don't actually mean that physically harms you. Unless perhaps you scream the hate speech real loud. What people actually mean is that hate speech harms you in the sense that it propagates societal values that lead very, very directly to the harm of people. Christina Hoff Sommers, for example, constantly promotes reactionary propaganda, arguing that men and women are just different, that sexism is a thing of the past, and in fact, if it does exist, sexism is actually directed against boys, and she frequently cohabitates with far-right proto-fascist propagandist networks like, for example, Prager University. So even though her physical words don't hurt, the messages she delivers propagate very harmful social values. That is what people mean when they say hate speech hurts people. Not that the triggering value overwhelms people and their brains vibrate like the resonant frequency of their internal organs causes them to melt at the sound of hate speech. Just clarifying.
You know, at some point we all got kind of addicted to the thrill of the spectacle of seeing people humiliated. They know that it's not violence. What they're saying is we're going to pretend that we have been violently assaulted by these words.
Transphobic piece of shit! Transphobic piece of shit!
And in actual fact, they are bullying people. So they're actually using force.
The hate speech didn't hurt anyone when I was saying that trans women aren't women and that actually fascism is good. But when they go in there and yell really loud, they're actually the ones using force and being bullies. And frankly, I think it's really fucked up that anyone would go to such lengths to silence our reasonable discussion. All right.
And they're pretending to be the victims of force.
Pro tip for protesters. Anything over 85 decibels causes permanent hearing loss.
Well, then the people who came there for their little speeches are always free to leave, huh? Freedom of association. Those protesters want to be loud, the other people can just leave, huh?
And that's like actual trauma. If anyone in your movement has an air horn, just kick them out by any means necessary.
Remember, when fascists tell you what upsets them, listen to them. So here's what you should be learning from these videos, or from this video. Be loud, be aggressive, deplatforming works. They hate it. All right, let's learn how I'm done.
Protesters at the College of William and Mary in Virginia shut down a free speech event hosted by, of all people, the ACLU. Why'd they do that? Because free speech is now bigotry.
There has been a disturbing tendency to lump together everything from...
So, I know about this particular event. BLM protests the ACLU. The ACLU itself apologized after Charlottesville and talked about how their perspectives on freedom of speech have actually led to the propagation of far-right rhetoric. So even the ACLU, the radically pro-free speech civil liberties union, has recognized the fact that the way in which free speech is propagated or can be propagated bolsters reactionary movements. Can we get a link to that apology? Actually, I think somebody linked it earlier in chat. Whoever did that, can you do that again? When they talked about Charlottesville?
From white supremacists to my own colleagues
Here we go. From conspicuous user. Why the ACLU is adjusting its approach to free speech after Charlottesville. The ACLU positioned itself to lead the resistance. Now, its deepest traditions could be at stake. The ACLU has blood on its hands. Almost like in this. Unite the Right rally. ACLU has sued the city of Charlottesville to allow the Unite the Right rally to happen downtown. So the ACL sued Charlottesville to allow the Unite the Right rally to happen. The ACLU took the city to court to defend the right of the Unite the Right rally to happen, and it led to the death of somebody. This is why I criticize, and why a lot of other leftists criticize the ACLU, because while it's good and all to promote free speech, you have to recognize when free speech is used as a Trojan horse for fascism, for bloodshed, for white supremacy, for anti-Semitism. The ACLU is complicit in the death of Heather Heyers because any reasonable person could have seen what was going to happen at the Unite the Right rally. But the ACLU, in their dogged pursuit of free speech, even when it means promoting people who themselves are anti-free speech, well, so the only change they came with here is the ACLU's national director, Anthony Romero, declared the group will no longer defend the right to protest when the protesters want to carry guns. That's not a huge deal, but it will leave them out in the cold when it comes to a lot of far-right-leaning groups. And it is a subversion of their principles, because the ACLU, being a civil liberties union, is as much Second Amendment friendly as they are First Amendment friendly. But Vosh, in most cases under which free speech is upheld, the left gets BTFO more than you did by alternative hypothesis. Damn, got him. Had to throw that one in there. Completely irrelevant. Here, wait. How many mods do we have on right now? So that's them. This is supposed to be the good chat, guys. There we go. How do you deal with horny after being cock-blocked by family getting home sooner than you expected? You go in that bathroom and you blast your nuts straight into the toilet bowl. Anyway, let's get back to the video. Even the ACLU has recognized that the way in which they've promoted free speech in the past has harmed people.
To my own colleagues in the American Civil Liberties Union, the executive director of the ACLU in Virginia was shouted down at the College of William and Mary, where ironically she had been invited to make a presentation about students' right to protest.
I'm going to talk to you a bit about...
Wait, that's great. She went there to say that students should protest. The students protested. What do you want? Wait, you got what you wanted. Look at them exercising the right that you're defending right there.
Now, the reason that she was disrupted was because of the ACLU's staunch defense, even for the
Oh, well, sure, they're just gonna link the fucking article. Okay.
thought that we hate, even the right to advocate anti-civil liberties ideas.
If you're shouting down the American Civil Liberties
No, not the same article, same site, I mean.
Union, which exists to defend your right to protest, we have a problem. I don't care.
No, we don't. Protesting the organization that defends your right to protest is the most pure expression of that right.
Care how creative your chants are.
Liberalism is
white supremacy.
Damn right.
White supremacy.
If you're not engaging with those you disagree with, and you're only interested in surrounding yourself with the people who affirm what you think, it gets to a point where your arguments are not going to be as strong or as sharp or as persuasive as they might be, because you're no longer testing yourself.
In the end, what it's really going to do is make sure that there's...
Laments vilification of Germaine Greer. Oh no, not Germaine Greer. Oh no. Oh geez. Yeah, no, she's insanely transphobic. Yeah. Oh no. Oh man, no one can even talk about anything anymore. Anytime I go up there, I virulently attack trans people, other students exercise their legal right to protest the things that I say. Oh, that's so fucked up. Damn. Notice, by the way, this video is supposed to be about why we need hate speech, but all it has done is defend people who have been shut down by legal civil protests, which has nothing to do with hate speech laws. Notice a little bait and switch there?
In the end, what it's really going to do is make sure that there is no internal debate, and as a result, they're going to become so
What the fuck does this have to do? This is from Zizek. A reply to my critics concerning an engagement with Peterson? What the fuck does this have to do with censorship? It's just a reply to critics. Can you not critique anyone in glorious fucking fascist utopia, Stan?
internal debate, and as a result, they're going to become so weak.
Banned from Manchester student union talk on free speech? Yeah, it's a student union. They're free to invite who they want, and they decided they didn't want a bigot there to talk about free speech. What is this weak ass shit? Oh, guys, we need hate speech. Let me throw up a bunch of examples of perfectly legal, perfectly reasonable exercises of our First Amendment right to protest people at universities.
Weakened intellectually because people will have no idea why they even hold those positions.
Yes, the author of Kill All Normies.
Never had to argue for them.
If what we want to do is go out in the world and achieve positive change, whether it's changing minds, whether it's touching hearts, whether it's affecting policy, you cannot succeed in doing that if you're only going to talk to people who are going to affirm.
Exactly. That's why we want to keep you from talking to people. Easy.
Your beliefs.
You gotta get them in there. Gotta get her in there. Just random clips of people yelling. Just angry looking SJWs.
We already know that hate turns people into monsters. But what's becoming clear is that there's no way to silence the monsters without becoming one of them. So.
Yeah. When we had a Nazi that was going to speak at our school, that was pretty monstrous. But then some students went up there and shouted a lot so he couldn't get his words of hate out. And that made them monsters too. Damn. That's some good-ass enlightened centrism.
What's the answer?
Guys, I'm terribly sorry to inform you, but we are now Nazis. Just best accept it.
We just tune out opposing viewpoints. We lose an opportunity to fight for a better future, to come together and fight for things that we have in common.
I feel like that people need to at least converse in some kind of dialogue for us to bridge the divides that's been happening in the last few years.
Free speech is really complicated. You need to look at it in a reasonable way and look at it in context. And if you want to rob someone of the ability to do that, you should have a good reason for it.
Isn't this guy a cunt too, from the New York Times? Didn't this guy do something?
And think about if you're doing more harm than good.
This generation now is facing a very special challenge. I believe they will rise up and defend their freedoms as others have done, but I think it's time
Yes, he's a transphobe? Ah, I see.
to organize and take back your liberties.
What the fuck are these people talking
What is
about?
at stake is a principle. That principle is essential for you.
To be fair, most of the night was...
Again, listen, this is amazing to me. Look at how incredibly meandering this video is. So when people talk, so initially it was about how it would be bad to have federal hate speech laws because for a variety of reasons. And I agreed with that. I don't want federal hate speech laws. But the vast majority of this video has been dedicated either to propping up fascist propaganda, saying that the deplatforming of Richard Spencer and Milo Yiannopoulos has only made them stronger, which is factually incorrect, or complaining about the exercise of First Amendment rights to counter-protest. So, okay, that's fine. That's a First Amendment right. You can counter-protest. If somebody is speaking and you don't like it, you can go there and be fucking noisy. That's your right. You can... That's your God-given right, comrade. That's freedom of speech right there. You're exercising your rights right there, live, next to that Nazi. But this guy is anti that. It's funny. This video was supposed to be pro-free speech, but actually, when we watched the video, he spent most of his time complaining against how some people use their First Amendment rights, saying that the exercise of their First Amendment rights to counter-protest is actually damaging public discourse. Interesting. I thought this would be a pro-freedom of speech video, but it ended up being an anti-freedom of speech video. Funny, that.
It was peaceful. We even saw a group hug between people on the right and left.
The task we have is trying to find those things that we have in common. That I don't expect people to go out and have one tough conversation and then they're experts. That this is incremental.
Well, you guys want screen? You're not missing much. You're literally just getting like
trying to find those
people hugging or whatever.
I don't expect people to go out and have one tough conversation and then they're experts. That this is incremental. It's slow. And that change is a process.
If we are to achieve...
What the fuck is this? Hate speech is bad. You can't argue against Nazis without becoming a monster yourself. Counter-protesting is bad. Alright, just go out there and hug, man. Just love the Nazis, and that's what we need. This is fascist propaganda.
Real social justice, we may actually need hate speech. And if you find this video hateful, well, I invite you to confront me about it. In a nice way. But please, no air horns. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed...
What a fucking cuck. Yeah, okay, so that was all fascist propaganda. Nice meme.